This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. In 2017, Oslo's city leaders committed to an ambitious goal: make the city as car-free as possible. Today, there are many streets where cars aren't allowed, particularly in the city center and areas around schools and parks. There are many other streets where traffic is so low it seems like they aren't allowed. Eliminating private cars from large parts of a city of nearly 700,000 people may sound crazy, but the results have been positive. Businesses have not seen a decline in customers, and in fact, the car-free districts are some of the most popular with shoppers. The Central Business District has seen a 10% increase in pedestrians and a 10% increase in shopping. Perhaps more importantly, Oslo recorded no pedestrian and cyclist deaths in 2019. It was the only major city on the planet to do so. Oslo isn't the only city aiming to go completely car-free. Cities in Europe in particular, like Hamburg, Madrid, and Helsinki, have also adopted removing the car as a goal. In this video, we'll dive into the reasons cities want to go car-free and the policies they're implementing to make it happen. While Oslo reaped pedestrian safety benefits from going car-free, it wasn't the only reason for the dramatic transportation policy. Cities in Europe are taking emissions seriously, both for air quality reasons and climate change reasons. The European Union's 27 member states have signed on to the goal to be carbon neutral by 2050, and with nearly 85% of Europeans living in cities by that deadline, policies aimed at cities are necessary. The EU recently launched a program to make 100 cities carbon neutral by 2030. One of the biggest ways cities can become carbon neutral is by reducing transport emissions. In Europe, 22% of carbon emissions come from cars and trucks. Those cities need to get people out of cars and into carbon-free modes, like biking, walking, and transit. Now, I know some of you are saying that everyone should just switch to electric vehicles because they can be zero emissions depending on where the power comes from. And while that is true, there's one more big reason why European cities in particular would want to banish the car. Cars take up a lot of space. Unlike many US cities that grew considerably in the age of the automobile, many European cities grew large in the centuries before the car. They have large, intact, pedestrian-friendly districts. Some cities did more demolition than others to jam cars into their central districts, and others rebuilt in more car-friendly ways after various world wars. But in general, there are still many cities in Europe where a high percentage of the population can move about just fine without cars. And just fine may be underselling it, because once you start getting rid of cars, it makes all other forms of transportation better. It's more pleasant to walk, safer to bike, and faster to ride a tram. So how are European cities actually getting rid of these cars? No, not like that. But there's no one obvious way to do it either. Cities can choose from a variety of policies. Oslo uses a particularly brilliant strategy. When local businesses push back on an all-encompassing ban on cars, Oslo switched to something a little more subtle. They don't always forbid cars outright, but they simply don't provide any parking. Over 700 on-street parking spaces in the city center have been eliminated. The few remaining spaces are left for disabled drivers, electric vehicles, and morning deliveries. There are still some parking garages on the periphery, but it turns out when there is no place to park, streets empty out and people turn to other modes. Oslo proved that a gradual approach, one that demonstrated the benefits of reducing or removing cars, can work better. This can apply to street closures too. One of the most famous examples of this is Barcelona's Superblock program. Barcelona's Eixample neighborhood features a rectilinear grid, and city planners made superblocks out of groups of 9 city blocks. Streets within these superblocks would be restricted to local use and speeds of only 10 kilometers per hour. Streets along the outside of the superblock would carry freight trucks, buses, and through traffic. The result wasn't exactly a car-free superblock, but it was certainly car-light. Barcelona recently announced that they're supersizing the superblock idea. Through traffic would be relegated to the edge of the larger neighborhood. This would open up even more street space within the neighborhood. Eixample is very dense with few parks, so much of the previously car-oriented streets would be converted into green space. 21 intersections would become public plazas. The plan is to have all residents in the area living within 200 meters of a green space. Again, many of the streets within the superblocks would still be open to local traffic. This is essential because people still need to receive deliveries and truck out their waste. But what if you could design a city where those sorts of trips wouldn't even be necessary? That's what's happened in Kalatasama, a new infill development project that will house 25,000 residents in Helsinki. All of the buildings are connected to a network of pneumatic tubes that shuttle 7 different categories of waste to a facility without the need for trucks. Other conveniences like mixed land uses, childcare centers every 300 meters, and robust mass transit means the neighborhood streets are pretty bereft of vehicles. Residents don't need their own vehicles to make that weekly grocery trip either. They can buy food from an app and a robot picks the groceries from the shelf and delivers them directly to their apartment. Clearly, building a city or part of a city from scratch with a car-free goal in mind confers certain benefits. Another great example of this is Houghton in the Netherlands. While there is a small old town Houghton, most of the city was built after a 1968 plan planned for cars to stay out of the city. Traffic is relegated to a ring road, later expanded to a figure 8 when the city grew in 2003. It's sort of like Barcelona's Superblocks, but no car traffic whatsoever is allowed within the rings. Instead, pedestrians and cyclists can move throughout the city without a car in sight. There are 129 kilometers of bike paths, and at the center of each ring is a commuter rail station that takes residents to Utrecht. It's sort of like the ultimate transit-oriented development. Europe is the perfect place to begin the car-free cities trend because their urban form is generally a lot more pedestrian-friendly than, say, somewhere like this in the United States. If European cities completely eliminate cars from their borders, the auto era will only be a blip in the centuries or millennia-long timeline of human habitation. It will be seen as a failed experiment that polluted the air, made walking dangerous, and ripped apart historic centers. But what about places outside of Europe, like the aforementioned United States? Could a US city ever go car-free? I've uploaded an extended version of this video that includes a discussion on that topic over on Nebula. In fact, that content replaces this ad because Nebula is ad-free. We're calling this bonus content Nebula Plus, and you'll see a lot of it over there. Not just from me, but all sorts of other creators as well. Nebula is where I post additional content on videos and Nebula original videos, like my most recent original video, the Best Cities 2020 Awards, where I determine which city implemented the most cutting-edge urban policy for the year. Will the winner be Portland, Beijing, Paris, or Nairobi? You have to watch on Nebula to find out. Nebula is great, and it's made even better thanks to our partnership with CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is the source for high-quality, engaging documentaries. For instance, they have a whole series called Rebuilding Ancient Rome, which shows you what Rome would have looked like in ancient times, thanks to modern-day 3D graphics technology. It pairs well with my Nebula original video, Planning Ancient Rome, which shows the city's growth and development during that time period. We have a deal where if you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link below, you get Nebula for free. That's not a free trial, but free as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. And they're running a promotion right now. You get an annual plan for 26% off. That's less than $15 per year for both CuriosityStream and Nebula. Signing up is a great way of supporting this channel as well as the dozens of other creators working to make Nebula a success. It's overall just a really great deal too. So go click on the link in the description and get 26% off.